what is most required in religious practice is humility mixed with compassion. Humility is something that is developed by reducing one's ego and trying to look at the world, everything in this world, as something that has a magnificence of its own. The Vedas do not have any patience for a man who says, the world is full of suffering, life is full of thorns, there is nothing to look at in this world. Let me therefore be myself living secluded in some corner of the world. You turn around you, you find, if you have the heart, even if you are not a poet, this sublime compassion of God to have created these plants, these animals, these landscapes, the rolling ocean, the waves in it, rolling endlessly, carrying his message. The plains where the dew settles for a while and then disappears to produce the effect of light on green, darkness on light, darkness and light combined together in a greeny landscape. He has given us so much of beauty around us. Nature is beauty. Generally, that is what Wordsworth said. This life is not worthwhile if you don't have time to stand and stare. You must have the special resolution to spend some time in the company of nature, looking around you about the way these things have been ordered by the order and the name of the God. You must get lost in that beauty. If you worship nature, which is the output of his craftsmanship, you are worshipping God better than denying all the beauty and withdrawing yourself into your shell. And in order to make us enjoy these things, God has taken many incarnations. Each incarnation represents a life principle which has since been forgotten. Everyone knows about the 10 avatars of Vishnu, or incarnations. Gross minds who are not well informed will try to explain the whole thing as the Hindu version of evolution. There was first the fish, that is for creation emanated from the ocean. Then you got the tortoise, which can live in the ocean and land, water and land. And then the boar, then the man-lion, then the dwarf, then the powerful Brahmin, and then the king, and then the Chanakya, the Krishna, and then ultimately the destroyer. They will try to exploit as secret evolution. On the contrary, each avatar has a particular principle behind it. The world is like a great float. It's a float floating in space. We are all contained in that. And this float is maintained by the push and pull effect of the planets around it. Those of them are actually sustained by the order of this world named the God. And so they thought of the float, invented the story that creation began with the Lord appearing as a fish on whom all the individual beings that were left behind, they boarded, and then they created the constant way in which the species multiplied. It's not that there's no Noah's Ark in it. The fish represents a capacity to live only if there is water. If there is no water, the fish will die. Harihi Sakshat Bhagavan Sharirinam Atma Jashanam Ivatoyam Ipsitam. The water is life, and that water is sustained by God. We are the fish swimming in that water. Second, the support of the world is in the 23.5 degrees axis. The earth is rotating at an axis of 23.5 degrees. If the axis tilts a little, Canada will become Africa or equator, and vice versa. As it revolves in that particular fashion, there is a force that keeps it chained to it in that particular angle. That force in Sanskrit language is called kurma. Kurma means tortoise as well as the balancing force. That is kurma. The third is the boar. Varaha avatara it is called. The boar lives in the forest. It digs the earth, and from it gets the grass and food that it wants, usually tubers. The earth that is dug in that fashion is replenishment over the earth, so that the topsoil that has been lost by rain is reproduced by this digging. Therefore, Varaha represents the principle in which man has to replenish the earth after having dug so much into it. That replenishment is indicated by the Varaha Avatara. The fourth Avatara is Narasimha Avatara. It is intended to convey the theory that God is in everything. Narasimha is a lion, man, and a celestial being combined together. With 4 hands, he is a celestial being. And in the form of a lion, he is an animal. And then his total form is like of a man. So all created animals, animate as well as rational as well as irrational, they are signified by Narasimha. Vamana is the individual who humbles himself to become great, who bends in order to rise to great heights. The story is about how Vamana begged of King Bali 3 feet of earth, ground. He immediately assumed the form of the universal person, and that way demonstrated there is nothing in this world that can be given to him as a gift, because everything belongs to him. Humility is taught by Vamana. Its expansion is taught by the Trivikrama. Destruction sometimes is the only means for reforming certain things. And the destructive force here is the axe of Parashurama. The axe represents not the cutting of persons, but the knot of ignorance, ajnana. The knot of ignorance is cut by that axe, and therefore there is a development where the individual becomes free from false thoughts. Rama represents the ideal human being, ideal to the fault, in the sense, despite the fact he knew that his wife was blemishless, he assailed her twice. And in that way, he demonstrated 2 things. When you do a duty, you should not be influenced by sentiment. But later scholars ordered that part of Rama where he was actually careless in his conduct towards Sita is something that everybody should avoid. In the Saptamati mantra, therefore, there is one mantra which says that you should never desert your wife under whatever circumstances. Krishna is Chanakya, the Kautilya. He represents the worldly knowledge. We should not be ignorant of the wiles of other people. We should not be a simpleton, should not be deceived, but should have the capacity to establish yourself, your supremacy, for your own benefit and for the benefit of the world, by trying to do things which may not be all right from the standpoint of ethics, but which are needed. Suppose somebody is speeding beyond the speed limit, The constable cannot catch him unless he breaks the speed limit yet more. The old man is speeding at 60 kilometers per hour. He would have to speed at 100 kilometers to catch him. So ethics can have a limit. Beyond that, unethical conduct is a means to form it. Final avatars are only intended to say when human foibles become great crimes and human beings do things which affect the entire humanity, God comes in the form of a punishing person who kills everybody by his sword. The sword there is the sword of knowledge. Death is enlightenment, and God is the means to that enlightenment. All these avatars have significance. They are not representing the origin of the species as Darwin contemplated. For a matter of that, there is a theory now going round which has been more or less scientifically proved that creation is a product of an intelligent design. So far as Hinduism is concerned, we say that all the world and all that we see is a creation of the mind. When the mind is absent from it, nothing exists for you. It does not mean they are not real. They are not fundamentally real. They are only temporarily real. What is fundamentally real is God, who has ordained all these things, created us. Even we are not real because we are transitory human beings. In that sense, the theory of intelligent design, which they have now been expounding and pointing out that in the labyrinth of the DNA, you have got all the advanced software to reach which we will take about many decades with our present state of knowledge. That's another thing. Then forms are enshrined in each temple in a particular way. And in that enshrinement, they do what is called a homa. First, they put pots of water in a particular order. They do some incantation. Then they do a homa, a ritual, and they transfer the energy of the homa to the kalasha, and the kalasha water is poured on the icon inside to sanctify it, to enrich it by itself. But what is being done is only the physical aspect of it. The spiritual or esoteric aspect is the world is sustained by cosmic energy. The world is macrocosm. You and I are microcosm. The temple represents your body. This microcosm must have a relationship with the macrocosm. Cosmic energy outside has to be, through incantation, attracted into the vimana of the temple, and through that into the God inside, icon inside. Is it possible? Is there any such energy? You can try that at home. Very simple experiment. Take a spatula to your palm. Try to touch the line here with the end of your ring finger. Keep it in that fashion, repeating a sound, Rama, Rama. After some time you will feel a creeping sensation, electricity being generated there. That's generated by the sound. It can happen in the body, and after some time you lose consciousness, and then you will feel, after you get out of that state, that you are totally relieved. That simple sound, practiced in a simple way, can create this wholesome effect. There, the vibrant sounds that are used are taken from the Vedas, and that way it has been used for temple consecrations to create a reality for the icon, which will otherwise not be believed in. Then somebody asked me, a mantra is only a number of syllables. Why can't I construct a mantra in the way I like? You give a certain list of mantras, say this will have 8 letters, that will have 5 letters, this will have 14 letters. Why can't I have my own mantra? All the mantras have a principle behind them. In Sanskrit alphabet, there are 15 letters. Each letter has got a particular virility. If they are arranged in a particular fashion, they create a favorable effect. In another fact, they are just useless sound, mere sound. So the mantras are selected using just those syllables which are capable of building the desired effect. There is one experiment that was done here. We have got Vishnu Sahasranama, a string of verses containing 1000 words of names of the Lord Vishnu. If 12 persons sit at a place and recite it in the same rhythm, it can be before a computer, it can be actually turned into a computer graphic, and you'll find the form of Vishnu emerging from it. The original sculptor who sculpted the form of gods, where from did he get the idea? Only by trying to concentrate on certain number of words, certain number of mantras in a certain order, and conceiving that in his mind's eye he had a graphic. That graphic was a form of Vishnu or Shiva or Shakti. That was how the first images were sculpted. Later, they were only Xerox copies. The first image, likewise, when you want to construct your own image, if you have got the capacity, you can create it out of your own mind. We don't have that capacity because manomaya srishtihi, that can be created by the mind, requires concentration for 48 hours at a stretch. With breath control, not in the full sense of the term, partial breath control. It's not easy for people to do it. But sculptors did it and found the original form, and so the generation sculpture, and then they knew also that the graphic description that they got should be immediately transported into a portrait. They drew the portrait, compared it close to the eyes, compared it to what they saw inside, and when it tallied, then only they began sculpting it. Even though what they do is do some dhyana or meditation before taking the chisel to make the idol, and then draw by chalk the form on it and then sculpt it. So grossness is something which is not totally gross if it is tempered by the subtlety of the mind and the keenness with which you perceive what you are seeing with the honesty of purpose, namely to serve humanity and not to make money. Here there is one ticklish issue. When I am talking like this and somebody asks me, you are talking like this because you know you'll get some money for it. What the Shastra says is, when you try to transfer knowledge for money, the knowledge cannot help either the giver or the receiver. Even take a very elementary thing. You may have a very great knowledge of astrology. If you practice astrology, say, for 5 questions, 10 rupees or $10, you will have no capacity left after some time. If you have some other job, you are on a job, you want to get a side earning through astrology, you will always fail. If you want to contrary, you have to live like an astrologer, only by that, then you can receive money. So, as far as money, when money enters in transaction, people must be very much careful as to whether they need it at all. If they don't need it, then they should try to refuse it. It includes even what I am telling to you now. I am not talking for money. And if I receive money for it, then I am no better than the professional swindler who spins a yarn and gets money for it. Then there is also what is called dakshina. Dakshina is fees paid for something. You can never receive, there is another passage which says, you can never receive anything without paying the fees. Then a person who receives, what should he do? He should not use it for himself, but for society, for a charity, or for some other purpose. That's why whenever an astrologer advertises that he will give you a life reading for 50 rupees, I used to be very much afraid, because what he reads may not come true, because God intervenes between money and his prediction. If it is profession, okay. Thirdly, how much of money can one acquire? You have been going to temples, asking for so many boons. How much of money can one acquire? The Vedas says that which you absolutely need for your comfortable living. Not luxurious living, but for comfortable living. If you take more than that, then you are a thief. Why? The entire wealth of the world belongs to God. You can take a share in it according to your deserts. He who takes more from it actually denies the share of somebody and is actually thieving over it. Tena tyaktena punjita magrita kasyaditno ishavasyam idam sarvam. The entire world belongs to God. Yakkincha jagatyam jagati. Tena tyaktena punjita. Try to be enjoying or acquiring wealth to the exact limit needed. And the Upanishad also says, suppose you breach this rule, what will happen? There will be no end to your wants. The more you have, yet more you like to have. Ultimately, all your life will be spent in struggling for money to satisfy your expanding desires. Is something like a person spending the whole day and some part of the night in gathering leaves for heating himself, for lighting a fire, finding little time to spend before the fire. As therefore, tena tyaktena, and then at the same time, you cannot also try abstemiousness as a virtue. I would like to live like a poor man. I will not clothe myself properly. I will not be going after rich food. Those denials are not going to please anybody. Kucherinam, dantamalopadharinam, bhakvasinam, dishturabhakshinancha, suryodayecha, astamayecha shayinam, jahati lashmihi, api chakrapaninam. You know, goddess of wealth is supposed to be Lakshmi. She is the consort of Lord Vishnu. This verse says, even if it were Vishnu, who always made it a point to wear dirty clothes, would not clean his teeth, will try to eat, but he doesn't know what he wants. Lakshmi will even fly away from him, flee away from him. Jagati Lakshmi Rapi Chakravaninam, Kucherina, torn clothes, Dantamanovaranam, unclean teeth, Bhakvasinam, eating too much, Nishtura Bhashinam, who speaks always harshly. The other thing is that many people may not like Suryodayecha Astamayecha, who is in bed at sunrise and at sunset. You must rise with the sun, and you should try to wait till sunset and darkness has descended to go to bed. But my brother used to joke on this. I can get over this because just before sunrise I will get up, wait for the sun to rise a little, and then go back to bed. But this verse says, you must rise early in the morning before sunrise, and should not sleep at sunset, because there is one reason for that. Utuka nama vayavaha vartante anda manjare. There is a particular type of breeze which cannot be felt easily. That is called kutuka. It has the capacity to drain some part of your energy and shorten your life. Kutuka will be active at sunrise and at sunset. So in that time, if you try to sleep, some of your energy, bodily energy, will be lost. Suryodayecha astamayecha shayinam jahati lakshmi chakrapaninam. And any habit that is actually cultivated cannot be given up, because forces of circumstance will be such that you are constrained to do certain things which you know cannot be right. But as Manu says, Parityajed arthakamo yosyadam dharmavajjito dharmam syapyasuko dharkam loka vidyushtamivacha. Try to be as truthful and as straight as possible. But let not that truthfulness and straightforward ruin you. Satyam bruyat priyam bruyat, no bruyat, satyam apriyam. You speak the truth, but don't speak the unpleasant truth, because you have to survive in society. Sulabha purusha rajan, satatam priyavadinah, apriyasya pratyasya, vakta shrota jirlabha. Any number of persons will be available to give pleasant advice, but not one will be available to give unpleasant advice. So, unpleasantness is what has to be avoided, and for that, certain habits have to be cultivated. And the prime habit is to be compassionate. What is compassion? Dharmaya, yashase, arthaya, jnanaya, swastaye nranam, panchada vibhajanmitvam, iha mutrasya monade. If you have a wealth, you should spend it only in one of five ways. That is, dharmaya, for charity; arthaya, saving for the future, a portion; kamaya, for pleasures; atmanaya, for decorating oneself; and then for the society. If you reserve your money in that particular fashion, automatically your wealth will grow. And compassion should be such that it does not rob you of the facility to live and support your family. In Tamil it is called Tanakku Poga Dhanadharma. You should never ruin yourself in the pursuit of compassion. What is the ultimate result of compassion? A compassionate man who is sometimes treated as superior to a bhakta or a devotee. And that's because compassion helps solve the problem of somebody, and so God solves your problem automatically. It's a quid pro quo that is written into human life. And a compassionate person in certain cases suddenly gets an awakening which you and I will never get. So, going to temple and trying to offer charity, and at the same time remembering that your charity should not destroy your own wealth, will result in a happy reconciliation between the needs of society and your own needs. That in that way, you will be able to live a comfortable life and not invite jealousies. Fly away from him, fly away from him, flee away from him. Jehati Lashmirapi Sakravaninam, Kucherina, torn clothes, Dantamanovaranam, unclean teeth, Bhakvasinam, eating too much, Nishtura Bhashinam, who speaks always harshly. The other thing is that many people may not like Suryodayecha Astamayechainam, who is in bed at sunrise and at sunset. You must rise with the sun, and you should try to wait till sunset and darkness has descended to go to bed. But my brother used to joke on this. I can get over this because just before sunrise, I will get up, wait for the sun to rise a little, and then go back to bed. But this verse says, you must rise early in the morning before sunrise, and should not sleep at sunset, because there is one reason for that. Utuka nama vayavaha vartante anda manjare. There is a particular type of breeze which cannot be felt easily. That is called kutuka. It has the capacity to drain some part of your energy and shorten your life. Kutuka will be active at sunrise and at sunset. So in that time, if you try to sleep, some of your energy, bodily energy, will be lost. Suryodayecha astamayecha shayinam jahati lakshmirapi chakrapaninam. And any habit that is actually cultivated cannot be given up, because forces of circumstance will be such that you are constrained to do certain things which you know cannot be right. But as Manu says, Parityajed arthakamo yosyadam dharmavajjito dharmam syapyasuko dharkam loka vidyushtumivacha. Try to be as truthful and as straight as possible, but let not that truthfulness and being straightforward ruin you. Satyam bruyat priyam bruyat, no bruyat, satyam apriyam. You speak the truth, but don't speak the unpleasant truth, because you have to survive in society. Sulabha purusha rajan, satatam priyavadinaha, apriyasya patyasya, vakta shrotajirlabha. In a number of persons will be available to give pleasant advice, but not one will be available to give unpleasant advice. So, unpleasantness is what has to be avoided, and for that, certain habits have to be cultivated. And the prime habit is to be compassionate. What is compassion? Dharmaya, yashase, arthaya, jnanaya, swastaye nunam, panchada vibhajanmitvam, iha mutrasya monade. If you have a wealth, you should spend it only in one of 5 ways. That is, dharmaya, for charity, arthaya, saving for the future, a portion, kamaya, for pleasures, atmanaya, for decorating oneself, and then for the society. If you reserve your money in that particular fashion, automatically your wealth will grow. And compassion should be such that it does not rob you of the facility to live and support your family. In Tamil it is called Tanakku Poga Dhananamma. You should never ruin yourself in the pursuit of compassion. What is the ultimate result of compassion? A compassionate man who is sometimes treated as superior to a bhakta or devotee. And that's because compassion helps solve the problem of somebody, and so God solves your problem automatically. It's a quid pro quo that is written into human life. And a compassionate person in certain cases suddenly gets an awakening which you and I will never get. So, going to temple and trying to offer charity, and at the same time remembering that your charity should not destroy your own wealth, will result in a happy reconciliation between the needs of society and your own needs. That in that way, you will be able to live a comfortable life and not invite jealousies. There is nothing that can be equal to the compassion of God. God's compassion descends automatically on people who are guileless, who are also totally ignorant in the sense that they are not scholars. And in this connection, I am reminded of a real happening in a part of South India where there was a very poor family. The husband had died and he did not leave any great property. The wife was also comparatively young. The boy was just 8 years old. He was reading in the Payal school in his own street. But after he qualified from there, he had to go to a school in the next town. The route lay through a dark forest region, but many people used to go there. So when the lady told that boy to go to that school, that boy said, "How? It's very dangerous to go there. It's so dark. Who is going to accompany me?" The lady said, "You know Lord Gopal, Lord Krishna? Yes, he will always come with you. You call him, he'll certainly come with you." The boy was guileless, innocent, and therefore he trusted his mother's words fully. So when he reached the edge of the forest, he just called for Gopal, come here. And a small boy of his own age came there, took him by the hand, led him through the forest to the town. And he came there again on the return journey. This went on for some months. There was a classmate of his who belonged to a very rich family. He had his birthday and he told this boy don't imagine that I will have any part 3 without you. You are very valuable for me, but don't have any notions that you are poor or I am rich. You must come somehow. So he went home in a dejected fashion, because when all people will be giving some gift to his friend, he will have nothing to give. So when he reached the forest, he was in a moody way, and he summoned Gopal, and Gopal asked him, "What is the matter with you?" "Sir, this is the matter. I don't have anything to give to my friend. Everybody is making good offering." So he Gopal gave him a small vessel filled with milk, very small vessel. You will go and give it to your friend, and you will be appreciated. This boy believed him, though he was not very happy that the gift was so small and so insignificant. He went there. In the meanwhile, that rich boy has told his mother, I cannot have this birthday without my friend. He will come here. Whether he brings a gift or not, you must treat him properly. And if he brings a gift, you should not do anything that will hurt him. The mother said yes. This boy came and handed over this small vessel of milk. She put it above all the gifts that had been received in the highest tier. This boy is totally satisfied. And then, after some time, the mother felt it was a misfit there. So politely she said, "Now that it is there, can I use what is contained in it?" Yes, there was some milk in it. So she got a small vessel, poured the milk into it. Then immediately when she lifted the vessel, it was still full. Every time she emptied it, it was getting filled. She was astonished. In me, it was full of curds. So at that time, the messenger came to her telling that she had ordered for some buttermilk, and neither buttermilk nor curd was available. But by this time, the milk poured from the small vessel, a number of times like that, filled almost a cauldron. And so everybody was surprised. So she asked the boy, "Where from did you get this vessel?" "You don't know?" "I don't know." "You don't know?" "Yes. I got it from Gopal. Gopal gave it to me." "Who is Gopal?" "He is my companion. He takes me through the forest. Every day I come to school." "Can we see him?" "Why? He is just like me. Come along with me." He walked along with him. They went to the edge of the forest. He called for Gopal. Gopal came. And in the meanwhile, these people are asking him, "Where is your Gopal?" So this boy said, "What's it, Gopal? I am able to see you, but what happens to these people?" And Gopal replied, "Your bhakti devotion is guileless, does not expect anything in return, and you are very innocent. People around you, all these people, will have to spend many lives to merit this treatment." That was Gopal's story. That is a thing that happened, that Gopal lived for his 76 years. He was younger to me by 2 years. He studied later, somebody took care of him. He studied and got a job and all that. That's a different story. It's personal experience. That is, God's compassion does not have does not make any discrimination on the basis of scholarship. Does not matter, because scholarship is a limiting factor. There is a familiar story about Lord Guruvayurappan in Kerala. His stories have been written as Narayani, composed in 1030 verses by one Bhattadri in Ambudai. So he was very proud. God was, after composing each verse, he would look at the Lord and seek his approval. He got it. So he was very proud that God has given him the certificate of the best poet approved by him. God wanted to punish him for his arrogance. So one day, an old man about 8 years old came limping that way, sat on the pile, and asked him, "Can I meet the author of Prakriya Sarvasva, a grammatical work? Who is there? Who is he?" "Oh, he is over here, but it's where is he?" "I am Dr. "Oh, you are the person who composed the Narayana." "Yes." "The first verse has one grammatical error, Second verse was 2. Third verse was 4. Suddenly this man realized this is not an ordinary person. Fell at his feet. Please reveal to me who you are. He said, I am Krishna. You try to insult my Bhakta, Pundanam, who wrote a work, wanted to get a preface from you. You just contemptuously disposed of him. So he brought, so that way, God humbles people whom he wants to humble. He does not ruin people, he humbles them. Then, that is the case of Rama Deva. Rama is Lord Lakshmi. Rama Deva means Vishnu. He was a nursery of Vishnu and therefore called himself Rama Deva. He was a man of extraordinary wealth and he used to celebrate every festival on a very grand scale. And every time he celebrated this festival, he never forgot to invite his guru, Kabir. He used to come there. One day he asked Kabir, you are a great Bhakta of Rama. I am doing this conducting this feast all these years. After doing puja to Rama, he does not appear before me. Will he come and partake of the food that I prepared? Yes, I will tell him. So he was very happy, expecting Rama to join in the feast the next day. He made special arrangements for the feast and special items also. And every guest came, but there was no sight of Lord Rama. But then he was very much disappointed. At the last moment, a big buffalo came there. This man in his angry mood bet it black and blue and drove it away. That night he went to his guru Kabir and asked him, how is it you told me that Rama would come? Rama never came. Then what happened, he asked. Yes, I'll first ask Rama himself. He meditated and he got the answer. Rama told him, I went to his house to sit in the feast, to partake of the feast. He has beaten me black and blue. See? So showed him all his wounds. Then Kabir was very intelligent. So he asked him, in which form did you go there? In the form of a buffalo. You deserved it, he said. So, and then the next day he apologized for, Kabir apologized to his friend and took Rama with him for the feast. From that day onwards, the feast was not conducted by this gentleman. It was conducted by the entire village on its own, on his behalf. They also made a contribution, so that whenever you do anything very big, take care to include in it contributions of other persons. See, sometimes a temple was built, once a temple was built, collecting only 1 rupee 25 paise from each person. That way, from 5,000 people, the initial money funds were collected, and then 25 rupees from each people. So, any number of bhaktas contributed to that, so that whenever you enter into a godly frame of mind, remember, God does not look at your charity, but at the humility behind your charity, and at the way in which it is being shared by those around you. That's a particular context in which Prahlada, the great devotee of Narasimha, was tempted by the Lord. I will give you everything that you want. You will become the king after your father. I will give you everything you want. I will give you even liberation, moksha. Prahlada answered, what is the use of moksha for me? It is only for the rishis who retire in solitude, seeking only their own salvation. If you want to give me mukti or liberation, you try to give mukti to everyone around me. I will take all of them along with me. And then if you are prepared to give mukti, then I am game for that. So that was what is appreciated in him by the Lord. And by the stroke of luck, all those people with him were able to enter the Vaikuntha along with him when he ascended to that place. In the same way, when Rama entered Sarayu to depart from this world, he took along with him many of the people of Ayodhya. God's compassion has to be shared with everybody. Selfless love is one thing. Sharing the results of that love with everybody around, those who need it most, is the highest quality. And there should be no, what can I say, hypocrisy about it. There were 4 brothers. All of them were devotees of Lord Shiva. It used to be said in their village that whenever they did a special puja of Shiva on Shivaratri night, the Lord himself appeared before them and blessed them. This happened on many occasions. They had a stepbrother, half-brother, who had finished his education, came on one of those Shivaratri nights. He was entitled to a share in this property. But when he came, these brothers told him, he asked him, what is my share? See, you have been away for so many years. We have shared all the property. Now, you take charge of our father. This is the property they have allotted to you. This boy was guileless. He went to his father. Father, you are my property, come along with me. He said, you don't have any money with you. How are you going to live from tomorrow? Today these people will feed me. From tomorrow who will feed us? He took him aside and gave him a particular mantra with which he was able to summon the devas who offered him a lot of money after a sacrificial ritual. As he was collecting that money, Shiva came from somewhere and told him, in a sacrifice, anything that is a reminder is an offering only to Rudra, to me. You can't take it. So, he said, he went to his father and asked him, yes. So he came back, bowed to Rudra, and gave all the property back to him. Please forgive me, sir. I didn't know I was stealing your property. The god was moved. He gave all that to him. And at the same time he told him, whether you like it or not, the property that has been taken by your brothers also will return to you. So when the brothers wanted to celebrate Shivaratri that night, Shiva did not appear before them. But this boy was not admitted to the puja room. He was poor, and he said he got all the wealth. And so he just went to another chamber, and there he and Shiva had a conversation for 24 minutes, which has been recorded in Brahma Vaivarta Purana. So, what is important here is not only humility, at the same time guilelessness. In every legend about the Lord, there is repetitive mention of the fact that God is not moved by wealth. He is not moved by scholarship. He is not moved by anything else than devotion to the doctrine of compassion, as enshrined in the Dharma Sutras, which had been in vogue at that particular point of time. There is Bodhayana Dharma Karma Samuchaya, a work in which a lot of do's and don'ts in respect of worship have been given. A particular Brahmin had mastered it, and he tried to do everything exactly as mentioned in that particular text, not deviating from the text. But at the same time, he had a failing. Doing all these good things, he will try to steal the property of his relative, then come back again, do an expiation as prescribed in Dharma Karma Samuchaya, and thought everything was all right. And when he left this body, he was not taken to the God that he worshipped, but to a special hell where he was made to suffer untold misery and pain. And when he implored the Lord, Lord Yama said, first experience this, because this is the price that you have to pay for your stealth. Then you can go to the heaven in which your Lord is pleased. So even an atom or an iota of misconduct can destroy all the results of the bhakti or devotion that is turned towards the God. That's the reason why Charvaka, who was a rationalist, who was an atheist living in the time of the Vedas, said, I do not want to practice bhakti. I do not want to go after the Lord. First of all, because I don't believe in his existence. Secondly, because if I did believe in his existence, He will not allow me to do things which I would like to do, which according to his law is supposed to be sinful. So sin is something which is automatically the result of one's mental proclivity, which has to be kept. Speaking of the legends, a question arose as to how the Lord could be partial towards a particular class of persons called the Devas and against others who are called Asuras. Actually, the stories are endless about God intervening on behalf of the celestials and punishing the Asuras. And the same legends say that these Asuras were also great worshippers, they had great discipline, they had done great penances and all that. How is that? The question is answered by a story in Markandeya Purana. It says, God enjoys both enmity as well as love. Those who enjoy enmity will get the results in the inimical way of being apparently killed by him. Those who worship with love will get the results of a beloved master. But the one difference that is, all this is not external. That is all, the demon and the celestial are inside you. When they quarrel, you find that you act in a brutal manner in one case and in an inexplicably affectionate manner in another case. Matching affection and carelessness is the gift given to man so that the end result will be overmatching of carelessness. How could you overmatch carelessness? If it's a cup of salt water, add plenty of sugar to it. It may taste better. Likewise, whenever you try to go beyond the limits set by your individual property, individual wealth, individual proclivity, be wary of where you are leading your mind, your body, your tongue and your senses. But one man asked me, sir, is it not cruel that God has placed all senses to function outwardly? Eye sees outward things, food is coming from outward. But you want me to turn everything inward. Inwardness is something that is difficult because the outward is more attractive. Then the answer was, if it's attractive, try to find out how you can make it more attractive. If you go into a garden, try to make it more beautiful than it is actually. Every work that is done properly is a sort of yoga. Yoga karmasi kaushalam. To a number of persons who had arrived at a particular place for a great disquisition on the concept of God, they were discussing this, that and every other thing. And nobody could agree on any common principle or common conclusion. And then one of them was a great bhakta of Parashakti, who he summoned Parashakti. We have argued all these things. We have gone to these individual conclusions, but we are not able to agree on which conclusion is the best. Then Parashakti called the cowherd who was just milking the cow. You abandoned and milking, come here, he said. That boy was very much afraid right away. What do you mean by God? Parashakti asked him. I don't know what God is. Yeah. Then what is it that you are doing? I am milking the cow. Why are you milking the cow? Because I have to live by the money that I get from the cow. Are you satisfied with the money that you get? Yes. Even for getting this, I have to receive a lot of kicks from the cow. I am satisfied. Now tell me, which is better? Without this toil, if you get this milk, will it be better? Or suppose I give you money, which will be better? He thought for a while and said, I don't want money. but I want you. What? Yes, because milk will get exhausted. These kicks also will end at some other time. But somehow in me something tells me that if I go on looking at you constantly, that will be a more present occupation than all this. So Parashakti said, looking at my picture is better than looking at me, thinking of me, and believing in the immanence and compassion of me is the best conclusion that can be arrived at. All these other conclusions are based on logic. If God is a product of logic, He would have created only logicians in the whole world. God did not make the world and leave it to Aristotle to make man rational. Therefore, wherever you try to find out God, find Him in love, in compassion, find Him in the society around you, without trying to distress anybody or looking down upon anybody. And then the question arose, you say that you want me to be very compassionate and man of with equal temperament, equanimity, but I cannot escape being jealous. And with jealousy I am always troubled. What can I do? The answer was, Gunadikyan mudam nipsir, anukkvasham gunadhavat, maitrim samanadan nichyen, na taper abhibhuyate. You try to be very happy that someone is better off than you. You keep company with those who are in your equal status. You pity those who are in rare status. In all these cases, if you behave like that, there will be no jealousy. What is the product of jealousy? Enmity. How will it work? Envious of Rama's prowess. One of the tributary kings of Koshala Empire wanted to spread a canard that all the money that had been collected by Rama was being used only by Rama's family for fattening the comforts, with nothing being left for those around him. And then he tried to find some evidence for that also in his own way, and confronted Vasishtha with that. Vasishtha said, all right, if Rama has committed a transgression, I will ask him. But in the meanwhile, where are you employed? I am not employed. I am having a father's wealth. What is the total size of that wealth? So much, sir. Has it increased of late? For the last 10 years, there has been a constant increase in that wealth. How did it arrive there? My mother used to pray to the Lord to add to the wealth, and the Lord gave it. So that wealth is the wealth that Rama has already secreted, because he knows persons like you will neither use that wealth themselves nor will they spare it for others. So sparsely populated regions even can become prosperous if there is grace of God. Very fertile regions cannot be prosperous if there is no grace of God. It's not a case of 10 commandments where divine anger destroyed the Pharaoh. It's a natural law. If you live in an oasis amidst the desert, very soon the desert will overwhelm you. And to prevent the desert from overwhelming you, as far as possible, try to create an outward-looking mentality, which temporarily at least will keep you in fine fettle and ultimately shear off from your mind all those evil thoughts that prevent you from expanding your personality. And compassion of me is the best conclusion that can be arrived at. All these other conclusions are based on logic. If God is a product of logic, He would have created only logicians in the whole world. God did not make the world and leave it to Aristotle to make man rational. Therefore, wherever you try to find out God, find Him in love, in compassion, find Him in the society around you, without trying to distress anybody or looking down upon anybody. And then the question arose, you say that you want me to be very compassionate and man of with equal temperament, equanimity, but I cannot escape being jealous. And with jealousy I am always troubled. What can I do? The answer was, Gunadikyan Mudam Nipsir, Anukkvasham Gunadhavat, Maitrim Samanadam Nichyen, Natape Rabibuyate. You try to be very happy that someone is better off than you. You keep company with those who are in your equal status. You pity those who are in rare status. In all these cases, if you behave like that, there will be no jealousy. What is the product of jealousy? Enmity. How will it work? Envious of Rama's prowess. One of the tributary kings of Koshala Empire wanted to spread a canard that all the money that had been collected by Rama was being used only by Rama's family for fattening the comforts, with nothing being left for those around him. And then he tried to find some evidence for that also in his own way, and confronted Vasishtha with that. Vasishtha said, all right, if Rama has committed a transgression, I will ask him. But in the meanwhile, where are you employed? I am not employed. I am having a father's wealth. What is the total size of that wealth? So much, sir. Has it increased of late? For the last 10 years, there has been a constant increase in that wealth. How did it arrive there? My mother used to pray to the Lord to add to the wealth, and the Lord gave it. So that wealth is the wealth that Rama has already secreted, because he knows persons like you will neither use that wealth themselves nor will it spare it for others. So sparsely populated regions even can become prosperous if there is grace of God. Very fertile regions cannot be prosperous if there is no grace of God. It's not a case of 10 commandments where divine anger destroyed the Faruba. It's a natural law. If you live in an oasis amidst the desert, very soon the desert will overwhelm you. And to prevent the desert from overwhelming you, as far as possible, try to create an outward-looking mentality, which temporarily at least will keep you in fine fettle and ultimately shear off from your mind all those evil thoughts that prevent you from expanding your personality.